I had worked as a community organizer in social change work for many, many years, and that had been very rewarding for a long time. And I was in a position where I was trying to encourage organizations to be more strategic and bolder about what they were doing. And I felt we were hitting up against a limitation that people couldn't imagine a deeper change than they had already seen some part of. So it felt like they wanted more of me, more jobs, more childcare, more something, but they weren't actually imagining something transformed. And so I encountered the commons in there at some point, and I realized that it was a frame or paradigm which invited people to think about themselves as solution makers, as actors, that something belonged to us, that we had responsibility for, that it flipped the conception of what is already ours, what do we already have a role in, what must we step into in some much more powerful way, a sense of agency rather than of just petitioning those in power. So that felt like an exciting possibility, and it felt like it activated a level of community engagement that the other work felt like it was failing to really deeply engage people. I think we have to ask ourselves, what are the capacities and ways of thinking that would enable a transition, a great transition, or would enable us to rise to the challenges of a great transition. And so what I think about is, how do we really understand deeply what our responsibility and role is in the world? How do we have the relationships and capacity to act on those responsibilities? Have we set up structures and institutions that enable us to actually have power about the change that we need to make? And so On the Commons in many ways is about that, about creating the capacities for people to have a sense of co-stewardship, co-belonging, co-governance about those things that really matter. And to my mind, if we can create instances and arenas for people to have that deep sense of participation, belonging, democratic participation, then we start to create the conditions in which citizens can transform the way that we currently do things. So I think it contributes to that capacity to meet the challenges of the transition. So listening here at the conference, I see a lot of stories being lifted up of projects and places where people are trying to catalyze new ways of thought and new ways of acting in the world. And what we know, that those are sort of prototypes. We don't have a critical mass of transition-oriented work, but we're trying to prototype examples where people can do things differently. And I hear at the conference people both looking at, how do we ask more fundamental questions? How do we engage people in deeper ways in change? How do we prototype work that can engage people in solution making that is more transformative than just ameliorating? So I've heard lots of examples. I think we're all here because we don't know exactly what that path will be, and our assumption probably is there isn't one path, but that we can learn from one another and bring that into our own work. And so I think there's a lot of promise here, and hopefully that ripples will radiate out from that.